take your pain. When you get weak, I'll make you strong again. When all is lost, I will comfort you. So give me your love. I need it. Give me your heart. I'm bleeding. Give me your love. I need it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give me your love. I need it. Give me your all. I'm bleeding. Give me your love. I need it. Oh yeah. Why don't you give me?
At Charlie Kirk 11. Do I just reveal that the Russians indicted were organizing against Trump? At Allah Pundit. Salon conservatives reading their Omni News Live.
Oh yeah. Oh, come on, come out. What are you looking at?
At Jack the Sobe. My friend bought a 3D printer a few days ago. Today he sent me this photo. At Rawonk. Clean up on Isle Jacob. At T. Penusa. Sounds like Eric Gates' plea deal is already bearing fruit. This is the first gift Gates gave to Mueller. At Politica Sara. Rachel Maddow got emotional as she said that the indictments of 13 Russians are proof that finally someone is defending us from the Russian threat to the United States.
This wasn't a crank call. This wasn't a lark. This was a Russian intelligence operation. This was Russian intelligence at its most ambitious. This was expensive. In the indictment today, they say that the budget for this was more than $1 million a month. It was expensive, it was extensive, it was well thought out, it was run by professionals, and it was effective. And so, yeah, we need to harden ourselves as a target, yes. But we also need our own professionals. We need the full force of the U.S. government going after these guys to protect us against operations like this. To catch them when they do it, to stop them when they mount operations like this that target the American public so aggressively. I mean, this indictment today was a surprise in so many ways, just like all the other indictment days have had their surprises. But the biggest surprise that I had after covering this story so closely for this whole freaking year now, the surprise for me personally was that hearing these charges and hearing what they were charging these Russians for, it was the first time that I felt like finally, for the first time since we realized all this was happening, finally, it feels like somebody is defending us and going after them and taking seriously what they did and showing, not incidentally, showing what this adversary is designed for and capable of and still working on for our election this year. Finally, somebody is defending us and taking it seriously and doing something about it.
At Stelian. Released texts from Peter Strzok show that the FBI intentionally covered up and removed emails with documents that were classified before handing Hillary as emails to the State Department. Corrupt and a crime. 18 U.S. Code 1519. At Cake Match. After seeing Black Panther, will T'Challa become a popular baby name? At Social Power 1. Laura Ingraham responds to backlash following her attacks on LeBron James. Liberals are playing the race card. Lauren Graham responds to backlash following her attacks on LeBron James. Liberals are playing the race card. At was years 1986. At POTUS is in the process of making this nation great again. I support him 100%. The last thing we need is some buttered baby like Mitt Romney elected as senator. Romney is a phony ampersand will be a constant thorn in the side of the MAGA movement. For they feeling flashback for they. At MCSPOCKY. Idaho lawmakers again reject raising smoking age to 21. At B52 Malmont. This is as current as it gets. What's pushing pro-new propaganda in relation to the shootings in Parkland? Vlad is still cooking up a contemporary page from the KGB playbook. When the heads of the different intelligence agencies appeared before the Senate last week, they warned that Russia had not just interfered in the 20. At Real Daily Wire, at Real Stavidra Clueless, Stephen King thinks MS-13 is a firearm. At Real Stavidra.
Fantastic. Opening quad. So from the opening quad looks by itself to the other end of the ring. Flip. Double toe, quad flip, double toe. I'm addicted to it, I know I am. Third quad, but with the hands down.
At India resists, at Good Political, at Lisa for Congress, at Good Political says Kathy Morris Rogers is no longer safe. A recent poll puts Democratic challenger Lisa Brown within 4 percentage points of CMR. Please give Flip the vote for the candidate at Lisa for Congress a follow. She just topped 6K yesterday. FF Flip with Blue 2018 vote route. At Real Stavidra, at Fox News Card. Carter Page is an absolute moron and should not be given any airtime. At Political L, at Cooknickel 13 replying, at Case Proxy, at Rizazi, at Political Loca. My mentions right now. At New Yorker. Karen Google's story provides a detailed look at the way Donald Trump and his allies used clandestine hotel room meetings, payoffs, and complex legal agreements to keep his affairs out of the press. At Carl Jones. Evil people are always looking for victims. When you remove the ability for people to properly defend themselves and their loved ones, you create more victims. How moronic must you be to believe that a more vulnerable population equals a safer and liberalogic Florida MAGA?
He joins us tonight. Carter, thanks for coming up.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
So just to get this out of the way at the outset, did you help any of these indicted Russians set up fake Facebook pages or plan any of their sparsely attended rallies for them?
The only Facebook shenanigans that were happening with state-sponsored media was Radio Free Europe. They published this fake news from the dodgy dossier in September 2016, and that was rebroadcasted by a sponsored media outlet, Radio Free Europe, which is sponsored by Broadcasting Board of Governors out of Washington. So that's the closest I ever had with any sort of government-sponsored news outlet. So no.
So you're an Annapolis graduate. You were a naval intelligence officer for 5 years. Presumably that marks you as a patriotic American. Did you ever imagine that your government would be spying on you at any point?
Well, I mean, I had some warnings about that back in starting in the summer of 2016 and into September. And actually, when I sent my letter to Director Comey on September 25th, 2016, I immediately called this out as a witch hunt, and so I had some advance warning about that. And I also warned him about, and I said, instead of allowing the staff of the FBI to focus limited resources on real threats, these desperate and unfounded calls for my investigation as a private citizen are a true disgrace. And unfortunately, as we saw this week down in Florida, that prediction turned out to be absolutely correct. So instead of focusing on some of these real threats out there, they were wasting a tremendous amount of money, time, and resources on
video. Danny's Weissel says neither is jailing nor released in accordance with rule of law.
Now, one of the reasons they were able to get a FISA warrant to break into your life and spy on you is because of the Steele dossier, which we reread last week. Because why not? And in it, I'd forgotten, there was the allegation that you received a percentage of a Russian company, shares in that company, which would be worth about $11 billion. And so I guess the obvious question is, did you ever get $11 billion from the Russians for spying on the United States, for betraying your country?
I'm still waiting for that, Tucker. And actually, it's funny. The company that did end up acquiring those shares is Glencore, and that was founded.
The contents of a newly uncovered letter sent in 2016 to then FBI Director James Comey by House Democrats is raising questions whether both the Democrats and then President Barack Obama tried to use. What? At ShareBlue. Vulnerable GOP senator caught profiting off secret business. Now he could be facing a steep fine. At Raping Bill. Democrats screaming Russia. But get this, turns out Democrats were really working for Russia. Trying to undermine President Trump's legitimacy. At Daily Caller. Report police showed up to shooter's house 39 times since 2010.
So once again, we are dealing with a mass murderer who was known to the FBI. This time the FBI admits that they failed to act on a tip that could have prevented another school shooting. Now, the Washington Post reports that a tip was sent in on January 5th from someone who was close to Nicholas Cruz. They were concerned that he was going to be carrying out a school shooting. The FBI admits that they failed to pass that information along to their Miami bureau, and in fact, they didn't investigate it any further. Now, the FBI says a person close to Cruz contacted the bureau's public access tip line on January 5th. They provided information about Cruz's gun ownership, desire to kill people, erratic behavior, and disturbing social media posts, as well as the potential of him conducting a school shooting. What the hell is the point of the see something, say something campaign if you're not going to actually follow up on a tip? Now, the FBI acknowledged that the information should have been assessed as a potential threat to life and at least passed on to the Miami field office, but it was not, and no further investigation was conducted at the time. FBI Director Christopher Wray says they are still investigating the facts and they're going to get to the bottom of what happened. So this is the very same FBI that we have been told for weeks is above reproach. How dare the Trump administration criticize the intelligence agencies? These are the same agencies that again and again have failed to stop a tragedy. Just off the top of my head, 15 years before his attack took place, they had investigated Tamerlan Tsarnaev as well. And one of the two shooters who was killed during an attack on a Texas Draw Muhammad art show had previously been the subject of an FBI terror investigation. But it's not just terrorists that the FBI has dropped the ball on. We're also talking about school shooters. Most recently,
Nobel laureate
the
to quit
FBI
Spam
had
Ambassador Olympic
investigated
JRTS
the New
sex scandal
Mexico high
Friends
school
24.
shooter. He was investigated by the FBI previously for making online comments about planning a mass shooting. And according to FBI documents, they were aware of Adam Lanza's plans to kill his mother as well as children at Sandy Hook School 4 years before this took place, but they did nothing. There was a man who specifically alerted authorities about a conversation in which Lanza said he had an assault rifle and had planned to kill his mom and kids at Sandy Hook, but the man was told by the Newtown Police Department that Lanza's mother owned the guns and that there was nothing that they could do about it. And so again, this might be the case where the FBI is saying, well, you know, nothing's been done yet, so there's nothing we can do about it. The kids illegally obtained his guns. But if they would have done just a little bit of research, they could have seen that this kid was making violent threats, that he'd already been previously reported to the FBI by a YouTube user who didn't like the fact that he commented, I'm going to commit the next mass shooting.
In Israel Energy Dispute News DW 17.2.2018.
Repeated mental evaluations, that he'd been kicked out of school, that he'd been visited by the police 39 times. All of these should have been a red flag enough for them to at least, try to recruit him into some terror attacks. The FBI is quite good at patting themselves on the back for stopping potential terrorists who, oh, by the way, they helped recruit. Is it any wonder why
Trump
people
was
see
reportedly
these
briefed
type
on
of
special
mass
counsel Russia
casualties
indictment
as having false flags thrown all over them?
And what did the President of the United States do on this day when some of the particulars of the Russian attacks on our election were revealed in a 37-page indictment by the special prosecutor? nothing.
How Turkey has potential to push measures up against Syria deeply.
The first president of the United States who has had to deal with the aftermath of a direct attack on the United States by Russia. And because Donald Trump is the weakest president in history, and because Donald Trump lives either in fear of Russia or in
Federer becomes oldest world number one friends 24.
Donald Trump continues to do absolutely nothing in response to the Russian attacks. The White House issued a press release falsely claiming that the indictment indicates that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and that the outcome of the election was not changed or affected. The press release includes a quoted statement by the president, which was obviously written for the president by staff, and in that staff written quote attributed to the president, it condemns the attacks, not the attacks by Russia. The president wouldn't dare say
Germany considering free public transportation to take on air pollution. News DW 13.2018.
Outlandish partisan attacks. The president of the United States.
How de-escalation zones in Syria became a war management strategy. Syria deeply.
The outlandish Russian attacks on our democracy. Why is Donald Trump, who has always been so concerned with appearing to be the strong man, so willing to play the role of the helpless, weak little boy who is dominated and controlled by Vladimir Putin? Why hasn't Donald Trump thought up a derogatory nickname for Vladimir Putin? Why does Vladimir Putin have a hold on Donald Trump? The president said nothing today about taking appropriate measures in response to what was
why Syria and the U.S. The Syrian reconciliation underground raid to Syria deeply.
Carrying out the sanctions against Russia that Congress authorized because of its
everything you need to know about the 2018 Berlinale film DW 14.2018
measures today against Russia. But what if Russia owns the president of the United States? What if Donald Trump has been compromised to the point where he lives in fear of Russia, lives in fear of Vladimir Putin, lives in fear of what Vladimir Putin might reveal about him and his history? Donald Trump brags
deeply
about
talks the future of Syria's female Syria
about how to
deeply.
handle himself in Moscow, and that's why he would never do anything with prostitutes in a Russian hotel. But this indictment shows that the Russians are willing to send people to the United States to do what they have to do. What if Vladimir Putin didn't just have Donald Trump under surveillance in Moscow?
Weather forecast for them % local weather report online Sky News.
City and elsewhere for years. What if Vladimir Putin knew everything about Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels before that became public? What if Vladimir Putin knew everything about Donald Trump and every Playboy?
The humanitarian crisis in Syria's northern de-escalation zone. Syria deeply.
Karen McDougal, who was revealed today, whose relationship was revealed today, and Ronan Farrow's report in the New Yorker. What if Vladimir Putin knows more about Donald Trump than Ronan Farrow or anyone else?
Trump praises Florida emergency services as he visits mass shooting survivors.
And what if Donald Trump knows that Vladimir Putin knows
Yahoo Mail free email with 1000 GB of storage?
That would explain Donald Trump's public subservience to Vladimir Putin, his fear of Vladimir Putin. That would explain the White House press release today. That would explain everything that Donald Trump did not do today. Everything that Donald Trump
Never
did
afraid
not
French
say
16-year-old
today.
snowboarder Pereira wins surprise
Vladimir
Olympic
Putin
silver
knows
France
more
24.
about Donald Trump than anyone else who deals with Donald Trump. If we ever get the answer to what Vladimir Putin really knows, about Donald Trump, it will probably be Robert Mueller who gets us that answer.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on
Business news, market reports, and financial news from Sky News.
President Trump found something that he liked.
A timeline of a tightening siege in Eastern Ghouta Syria deeply.
He found something that he believes, something the witch hunters told him today that he really, really likes and believes. Here is the president's favorite line to come out of the witch hunt so far, and it appears on page 3 of that 37-page indictment filed by Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller against 13 Russian individuals and 3 Russian
Carnival parades on millions across Germany. News DW World 2.2018.
Quote, interfering with the U.S. political and electoral processes, including the presidential election
Weather forecast for them, % local weather report online Sky News.
Always called this investigation a witch hunt, and of course we all know there's no such thing as a witch, and so a witch hunt is a search for something that doesn't exist. A witch hunt is a fraudulent exercise. But on page 3 of the witch hunts indictment today, it
Florida
says,
shooter, a troubled owner with white supremacist ties.
2014 defendant organization began operations to interfere with the U.S. political system, including the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump believes that. He believes that line as written in the indictment of the witch hunt today. Donald Trump loves that line. And the reason we know he loves it so much is
on
because
calls on your own desktop search of juvenile executions. News DW 16.2018.
Russia started their anti-U.S. campaign in 2014, long before I announced that I would run for president. So now he believes the witch hunt. Russia started the anti-U.S. campaign in 2014. Now that he believes the witch hunt, maybe he'll start calling it the Russia investigation instead of the witch hunt. Now that 13 Russians who are not witches have actually been indicted, well, we know that's not going to happen. We know Donald Trump has an increasingly limited vocabulary, and he's never going to get that witch hunt thing out of his head, and he's never going to stop lying about what Robert Mueller's investigation is actually about and what it is accomplishing.
Lunar New Year, CNBC looks at Chinatowns worldwide.
In the United States District Court, Robert Mueller said that 13 Russians have conspired since 2014 to violate laws that prohibit foreigners from spending money to influence federal elections in the United States, including the presidential election in 2016, in which their constant mission was to hurt Hillary Clinton's candidacy and help Donald Trump's candidacy, as well as anyone else who was running against Hillary Clinton, including Senator Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary and Green Party candidate Jill Stein in the general election. Senator Sanders issued this statement today. It has been clear to everyone except Donald Trump that Russia was deeply involved in the 2016 elections and intends to be involved in the 2018 elections. It is the American people who should be deciding the political future of our country.
ICE steps up enforcement at businesses in California, targeting employers and
It
workers.
is absolutely imperative that the Mueller investigation be allowed to go forward without obstruction from the Trump administration or Congress. That was a presidential reaction to what was revealed today, that reaction by Bernie Sanders. Jill Stein has not issued a statement about the indictment. Today's indictment is the first set of charges brought by the special prosecutor specifically for interfering in the 2016 presidential election, which was the first specified jurisdiction of the special prosecutor's investigation. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who oversees Robert Mueller's investigation, announced the indictment.
The defendants allegedly conducted what they called
Jeremy Corbyn denies claims he was paid to spy on Britain during Cold War.
They used stolen or fictitious American identities.
Trump administration proposes stiff penalties on steel and aluminum imports, the New York Times.
The defendants posed as politically and socially active Americans, advocating for and against particular candidates. They established social media pages and groups to communicate with unwitting Americans. The Russians also recruited and paid real Americans to engage in political activities, promote political campaigns, and stage political rallies. According to the indictment, the Americans did not know that they were communicating with Russians.
Some defendants posing as U.S. persons and without revealing their Russian association communicated with unwitting
Dozens of Russians are believed killed in U.S. backed stereotype, the New York Times.
To seek to coordinate political activities. Asked whether Trump campaign officials
Tillerson
had
can't fix
knowledge
what
of
ails
the
U.S.
Russian
ties with
scheme
Turkey
or
foreign
were
policy.
duped, Rod Rosenstein chose his words carefully, simply saying that that particular allegation is not included in this indictment.
Why Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston are still everyone's golden couple. News.
That any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election.
The Special Prosecutor's Office also announced it has reached a plea deal.
Syria's civil war complicated by multiple proxy battles time.
As part of the Russian criminal conspiracy. The charges against Richard Pinedo of Santa Paula, California state that he sold bank account numbers created using the stolen identities of U.S. citizens to people or entities outside of the United States. As part of his plea deal, Richard Pinedo has agreed to cooperate with Robert Mueller's investigation. Richard Pinedo signed a statement indicating
Canada
that his plea deal,
postpones marijuana legalization.
does not include all of the facts known to me regarding this offense. That indicates that Richard Pinedo has told the special prosecutor much more information than is revealed in his plea deal today. The indictment of the 13
Political thriller
Russians
master
today
custody of
says defendants
85 film
also
DW World
used the
2.2018.
stolen identities of real U.S. persons. Here's what the president had to say today when he was asked about all of this.
Do you feel vindicated in the Mueller investigation?
Mr. President, will you punish
Do you
Russia?
feel vindicated, Mr. President?
Will you punish Russia? They're trying to help you win the election, Mr. President. Will you put a Russia program
Lawyer California man in Russia probe has made mistakes.
on Russia?
Mr. President.
Nothing on Russia, Mr. President. Russia's on a hoax, Mr. President.
Join us for tea.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
Stormy Daniels' full interview inside her affair with Donald Trump in Touch
Now,
Weekly.
Jill Wine-Banks, former assistant Watergate special prosecutor and an MSNBC contributor. Ari Melber, the chief legal correspondent for MSNBC and the host of The Beat, weekdays on MSNBC. And Ben Wittes, editor-in-chief of Lawfare, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and an MSNBC legal analyst. And Ari, I know you have been studying this indictment and talking about it a great deal on the network today, including talking about it while studying it. As it stands tonight, now that you've had a little bit of time to breathe,
take a good look at what I just found. Internet rages after Google removes view image button. Ashfo and Getty borrows Technica.
Well, you're right, Lawrence. I'm even happier to do it here with you live on The Last Word because I don't have to talk while literally reading it, which is happening in the newsroom with breaking news. Look, this is a turning point. February 16th,
This week, Google image searches get a lot less useful with the removal of a view image button. Before, users could search for an image and click the view image button to download it directly without leaving Google or visiting the website. Now, Google Images is removing that button, hoping to encourage users to click through to the host's website if they want to download an image. Google's search liaison, Denise Sullivan, announced the change on Twitter yesterday, saying it would help connect users and useful websites. Later, Sullivan admitted that these changes came about in part due to our settlement with Getty Images this week, and that they are designed to strike a balance between serving user needs and publisher concerns, both stakeholders we value. Almost 2 years ago, Getty Images filed antitrust charges against Google in the EU, taking issue with the company's image scraping techniques to display image search results. Earlier this week, Google and Getty Images announced a partnership, and Getty withdrew its charges against Google. Changes like the removal of direct image links were apparently part of the agreement. On one hand, Google Images focuses mainly on the content of the image and doesn't do much to display the copyright status of its search results. With a view image button, it was easy for users to go directly from searching to downloading an image, without ever seeing or considering who owned the image. Image piracy is a rampant thing on the internet. The images I take for device reviews are regularly stolen, for instance, and content creation firms like Getty Images could see the view image button as promoting image piracy. On the other hand, it makes image search less useful for users, requiring extra clicks to get the image you want. Adhering to copyright law is still the user's responsibility, and a whole lot of images on the web aren't locked down under copyright law. There are tons of public domain and Creative Commons images out there, like everything on Wikipedia, for instance, and lots of organizations are free to use many copyrighted images under fair use. There are also many times when content on a page will change, and the visit site button will go to a web page that doesn't have the image Google told you it had.
Shoebox, no shoes in it. And the implication is there's drugs in the shoebox. And I think the implication here, and I will point specifically to page 33.